Time's up, Admiral.
Here it comes.
Chevron 1, coded.
For my ally is the Force, and the powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Cry hammer, and let's set the tongues of war.
Chevron 2 is coded.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of their women.
It's all in the reflexes.
Well, I'll also say that you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi, and all that killer stuff.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Chevron 3 encoded.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. I won't. The hell I will.
Chevron 4 encoded.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Chevron 5 encoded.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chevron 6 encoded.
Not for while you can, monkey boy.
Great Scott!
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
You shall not pass!
I thought I'd die fighting side by side with an elf.
What about side by side with a friend?
A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day.
Chevron 7 is locked.
Hail and howdy, everybody. Welcome back to Saturday Night Driving, where we take a break and try to enjoy the movies we watch. We try. Sometimes we fail. Or we don't remember them, or we remember enjoying them more than we did in the past than we do now.
Or we're just dead inside.
Hey. I'm only partially dead inside, all right?
Okay.
And it's because of other stuff that I had to do today. Doctor Who's terrible. Anyway, all right. So, welcome everybody. We hope you're having a good Saturday evening. We're happy to have you guys with us. How you doing, Jed? You survived Ballbusters again.
Yeah, I survived Ballbusters and watched Doctor Who in like a 12-hour period. Not the wisest of decisions on my part. I can only get so much gay at one time. It was just too much. I've hit my meter for the month, and then next week I have to do more Doctor Who.
Yes, it doesn't end. We got another 5 weeks of Shooty Who, but that's a different stream. Join us on Monday for that. Tonight, how you doing though? Otherwise, you okay?
Oh yeah, I'm excited to talk about this movie because I think there's a discussion to be had with this movie. I absolutely enjoyed this movie, but I see all the flaws. It's not a great movie. I think there are aspects of it to love, especially from a cinematography perspective.
I think we're going to be walking down the same path today. I do.
Yeah. If we were talking subjectively, I love this movie, but when it comes to the objective discussions, I'm probably going to be right there beside you. Yes,
it's going to be a good one today. So hail and howdy to the chat across both chats. We're happy to have you all with us this afternoon, evening. It's 6. It's evening, but it's still light out, which I love. I love that it's still light. It means when we're done here, I can go take out the garbage and not have to walk down to the dumpster in the dark. It's a great thing. I love it. But hail howdy, and look at this. We got a super chat from Sam 8000 for $5. Does anyone agree with me when I say screw letterbox in movies when I have a 60-inch TV and I want every inch of it filled? As the old man here, I will go first because I have more of a perspective than Jed does. He once upon a time we had these things called tube televisions, which had a 4:3 ratio.
I have heard of these only because of Zack Snyder.
Yeah. So back in the day, when it was a 4:3, I hated letterbox because everything was just smaller on the screen, even on the large screen. It just didn't work. I didn't enjoy it as much. So I was there. I wanted everything to be full screen, 4:3. But since the advent of widescreen televisions, I'm okay if something is been formatted for the full 16:9 to fill the screen, or if it's letterbox. I'm okay either way. I don't see the black bars anymore. I don't really. I just see the film. So that's how I feel about it. How do you feel about it, Joe?
I just like you said, I don't really notice it most of the time, and it does provide some films who do it well. There are good ways to do this and bad ways of doing this, but switching your aspect ratio, doing the letterbox gives you the artistic ability to do that if you so choose. But yeah, I rarely notice it. I would prefer the full screen to be filled though. I spent money on a 16-inch television, like you said. Use all of it. Why are we doing this? I don't get the reason behind not filling the full screen, but I don't notice it.
You know,
Yeah.
it's sometimes like I remember noticing for the first time with my MCU movies that I had been when I was watching them in order one time. I watched Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and then I got to Avengers. All of them have been letterbox, and suddenly Avengers was full 16:9. It filled. I'm like, wait a minute. Did I do something to the TV and did the player? Did I hit a setting? What's going on here? That was like way back in the day when they had just started sometimes to have it just fill the screen instead of it be letterbox. And it's you never know what it's going to be anymore. Sometimes it fills screen, sometimes it's letterbox. Now I'll notice it when it's happening, but then I will quickly just watch the movie. So that's how I feel about it. It's at this point I kind of just, like I said, it goes over me. So that's it. And $7 for the $5, and you have a follow up. You've earned your follow up here. Everyone should be in 1.7 or 1.85 except horror movies. The letterbox helps create a sense of claustrophobia. I don't know what that means. Claustrophobia. Do you mean claustrophobia? Is that a typo? It might be a typo. I think it meant claustrophobia. Either way, well, I mean, hey, listen. That's the thing, though. We all enjoy things in different ways. Obviously, Sam, it bugs you, and you have every right. Just like Jed said, it should be claustrophobia. Yeah, claustrophobia. So listen, I both agree and disagree. I agree. My older me, when there was older TVs, agrees with you. Current day, it doesn't really hit me anymore. I just see it. Like I don't see it. I don't see it. Maybe it's because I'm just focused in and watching. Anyway, all right. Thank you, Sam, for the $5. But okay, so it's 1995. I'm a wee lad. Jed doesn't exist yet. And a movie called Braveheart comes out. And it took everybody by storm back in the day. It was such a hit. And nobody knew the history. If you said you knew the history, you're a liar. I call you a liar. Nobody knew the history back then. And we all thought this is one of the greatest works of cinema we've ever seen. I mean, think about it. Jam-packed cast when you think about it. Jam-packed cast. This is Mel Gibson riding high at this point. He's done 3 Lethal Weapon movies. He's done a bunch of stuff. He's Mad Max. He's everything. Everybody is enjoying it. It's mid-90s, so there's no censorship. There's going to be blood, there's gore, there's combat, and you're just going to get this movie thrust upon you, and you're going to watch it. You have a good time, and you're going to rent it. You're going to watch it over and over again. And that was the feeling. And then it goes on for Mel Gibson to win Best Director, which he did this.
Was it his debut, his directorial debut? I believe it was.
I believe it was. Now, he won Best Director, and he deserved it. Because that's one of the things when it comes to production value, this movie is top notch. They spared no expense. You feel, you smell, you taste this movie. Everything, it's visceral from the every little aspect, how they look, how the environment, the costuming, they nail it all. Looks good. But you get away from the production and also the performances. The performances are outstanding too.
Yeah, all of them are great.
It's literally dividing line. You talk about the production versus the story, and we go separate ways. So, Jed, why don't you set up the history for us?
Well, I'm not an expert on the history. I'm not going to be called a liar by you tonight.
The period.
The period. So, yeah, England over the last several centuries has enslaved, basically, treated the Scottish people horribly, invaded their lands, conquered them, and just generally been tyrants to the Scottish people. And finally, a lot of Scottish people have had enough. I mean, they're famous for their many attempts at independence. The Scottish people are always fighting back against the English invaders, and this is just one of those periods where there were several wars for independence in a row. At least in the film, we see one tiny one at the very beginning, the main William Wallace one, and the one that follows in the epilogue of the film. And it's just these Scottish people who want to be left alone. They like to do their own thing. They're their own people. They don't want to get involved. I mean, you see that in a lot of other wars when they're not forced to go and travel with the main British forces. They just fuck off. They're like, we like our highlands, our pretty mountains. Let us stay here. And the British would never let them do that. So the Scottish people are wild men, a lot of Viking blood in them, and the combination of Vikings and Picts is a dangerous combination that made the Scottish people. So no matter how futile it was, the Scotsmen were going to stand up against the British or the English, and that's what we see in this film is a rather small event igniting the countryside and leading towards a great revolution.
Yeah, and it's in the shadow of the death of the then Scottish king. I mean, I did check the history on this, and there was a king, and then there was another temporary king, which the movie kind of leaves out that was there. But it basically, what Mel Gibson did, he decided to focus on William Wallace and make him the hero. Now, William Wallace is a true historical figure. There's not a lot of evidence on where exactly he comes from, according to what I checked on. But he did exist, and he did with others. It wasn't just him. He had partners that started the revolution. He started this rebellion, which did reach all the way to York, but not in quite the way we see. So in the movie, he is orphaned after his father and brother are killed as they try to be rebels, and he's taken in. And during the funeral, a little girl gives him the flower, and he touches his heart, and thus begins this fake romance.
The romance is very, very weak.
Okay, here's the thing. When I was watching this when I was younger, when it came out, all of it hit perfectly. If you're young and you don't know the history, it hits nicely. Oh, the romance. We know I'm a hopeless romantic. Oh, the romance. He fell in love at first sight as a child. He comes back. He woos this girl who gave him hope to go on. And then because the actual historical thing of prima nocta, which
wasn't enacted in Scotland in this period, though. That's not true. Yeah, it wasn't a thing at this period in Scotland. That's not why she was killed or anything like that.
Why any of them was, yeah. So, but prima nocta, but in this, the prima nocta has been enacted because Edward Longshanks is busy trying to solidify his rule both in France and England. But the Scots aren't doing this. So he's like, instead of fighting them, let's breed them out. Which, from the perspective of this movie, you're talking like a couple generations of work and effort that he would never live to see.
And he mentioned later that it incentivized a lot of his nobles to move to Scotland.
Yeah.
So it made a lot more voluntary movement of troops. It didn't seem like he was forcing them. If people go happily somewhere, they'll be a lot more effective.
Yeah. And so the problem here now is that we start this movie with a fake background for him that is not solidified in history.
Yeah, he's most likely was a nobleman, not a commoner.
It did. It did. He was a lower nobility. I saw it. He was most likely lower nobility. So we have a fake backstory and a fake catalyst moment because we get a scene of prima nocta being enacted, and one of his eventual boys, another guy who's going to be like who's a Scotsman, who's a super character actor across a lot of TV shows, dude with the scar on his face. He's everywhere. After that point, he's in TV shows forever. After this point, most famously, recently, you could think he was in the biker show. What was it called? On FX. I just forgot it.
Sons of Anarchy?
Yes, Sons of Anarchy. Yeah, he was in Sons of Anarchy. Tons of stuff. So we see that just as William comes home, and we learn that, okay, the people aren't having this. And then because of that, he wants to woo the girl who gave him the flower, Morin. And because they know Prima Nocta is happening, they wed in secret. Problem is, then some British shoulders try to use the term that's going around today, SA her. Yeah, well, another stream, guys. Stream.
Well, interesting bit of trivia with her. Apparently, historically, she was most likely called Marion, but they renamed her to avoid Robin Hood connotations.
That's funny. That's funny. Oh, we can't.
There's a lot of those decisions. Like, this might be too similar to something else. Let's change the history.
Yeah. So he saves her, and listen, in the movie, these are all great scenes.
Oh,
okay?
absolutely.
The production, the reacting, the chemistry, everybody, it's great. A man in love with a woman. They're hiding their love so that she doesn't get impregnated by a British noble. And then she almost gets attacked, and he swoops in and does brutal, righteous, husbandly vengeance upon these men. And it's awesome, but it didn't happen. And watching it now, knowing it didn't happen, I'm just sitting there going, can we move along? Because, Jed, this thing's 2 hours and 57 minutes.
I think that is quite bloated. I'm never really a fan of voiceover. There's very, very few times that I'm okay with voiceover as the main narrative or the plot momentum vehicle. And this film, I think it's just done horribly, glazing over events that we don't need to even know about, and repeating information that we physically saw. Like, we don't need a lot of this stuff. I think you could kind of cut out that. We find out a lot of the stuff in later scenes. Like, it's randomly like, oh, and now it's 20 some odd years later, and he's all grown up. And you wouldn't be able to figure that out from seeing Mel Gibson as an adult. No, I have to tell you that it's years later.
This is actually one of my biggest problems as watching this movie. This entire rebellion takes place over nearly a decade. And they never give us dates until the final moment.
It feels like it might be 13, 14. Year.
No, this took place over years and years with that final epilogue scene, the Battle of, I think it's Lachlan or something like that. That's years after his death.
Well, the actual king, Edward I, I believe he was called, he died 2 years after William Wallace died, and then that stuff happened.
He didn't die when he yelled freedom! He didn't die during, what was that, consumption? Was that consumption he was sick with?
Probably
something like that. I don't know. Maybe a tuberculosis type thing. I don't know. But I mean,
it probably wasn't diagnosed properly.
Yeah. Point is, though, there were just a lot of my problems with watching the movie now as an adult, as a reviewer, as a critic, could have been solved with like a date. All you need is a date to flash across the top of the screen. 1307, 1309, 1310, 1311. Do that to let me know the passage of time.
There's a lot of great ways to do that. I mean, a simple way is to fit in with the actual culture. Have Mel Gibson grow a beard for part of it.
Everybody else had a beard.
Exactly. And you could show like the grizzled grime, gray his hair a little bit because you age more and
Mel
more.
Gibson wears a beard. So we know the man looks good in a beard.
I don't know if historically William Wallace didn't wear a beard, but I imagine we either don't know that. The statues had beard. So like, yeah, absolutely. Have him after the war starts, grow a beard, get more grizzled. You could do physical passage of time.
The beard. But all we get are scars, like on the forehead and stuff.
Which I do appreciate that type of continuity, but it's still not enough to really translate how long this has been. Because, it all feels stunted. At the same time, the pacing is all over the place. This movie is bloated to hell and back.
That first act is so slow.
I like a lot of the first act, but it could absolutely be cut out. I think this film would rest very comfortably at like 2 hours and 20 minutes. I think you can get the same plot, same stuff. That's cutting out a lot of the film, though. And the one thing I will say about the first act is I enjoyed the young actor who played William Wallace, but I think the scene where he finds out his dad is dead is actually phenomenal. I love when the kid hears people are coming, runs out there with his bucket of water, and then we don't have to he doesn't have to whisper to the audience, "My daddy's dead," or have anyone tell us. We just see the look on his face as it sinks and his realization, and then he goes back to his chores and just tries to fight through it. Like, I love the performance and the framing, and then the other guy has to call him over and talk to him. But
now
there's a lot of great moments of direction like that.
Well, that's
show don't tell.
Mel Gibson can direct a movie. He can direct the hell out of a movie. He knows good shots, and the script, the writing, solid. We're complaining about these things, but remember, there's a dividing line here. The production value, the dialogue, it's all so good. And it hits well and is delivered perfectly. There isn't a bad performance really in this movie. Not really.
The closest one I would say is his wife. I just found her.
She's barely in it. That's the thing.
Yeah, I found her kind of boring. But besides that, solid.
And then her replacement, the beautiful Sophie Morceau. You get a true beautiful actress, an excellent actress, a French actress who play a French woman. Gee, fascinating that, huh? It was easy. But get a beautiful woman like that, and then she carries her scenes. I mean, one of my favorite moments is at the end when she goes to see him in prison to try and give him the drug to numb him. She says, "The king is dying. The son is a weakling. Who do you think is going to rule in a month?" And guard's like, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am." That's like just a good. It's powerful. It's subtle, but it's powerful. Because
that is historically accurate. I was reading that she had a son also named Edward, who she had she overthrew her husband and put her son on the throne.
Well, because that's what happened back then. That's what happened.
It happened a lot.
Yeah. So these performances are all great. The dialogue is good. And everybody's accents are solid. I mean, Mel Gibson, we know that he's Australian and he speaks American most of the time. He can do accents. And do you have a problem with any of the accents? Because a lot of them are British accents doing Scottish as well. So
nothing really jumped out at me as an incorrect accent. I was fully immersed in this movie, even with the historical inaccuracy stuff. I don't think about that when I'm watching the movie necessarily because I'm not an expert on it. But I'm thoroughly immersed. I know the costuming isn't 100% right. I know him wielding a claymore isn't exactly right.
That's the problem.
It feels so right. The accents, the music. I absolutely love the main score for this film. I'm just in it. I feel this world. I care about these characters.
And I mean, to get to other things, like there is such a thing as the Wallace sword. That is, he did wield it, but the way they portrayed in the movie, it's just like, man, that's just. I was watching the battle very carefully this time around. I was like, yeah, I'm not seeing that in that kind of a tight battle, wielding the claymore. I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't feeling it at all. Point is, though, but there are the performance elements from dialogue to interactions. Everything feels good. It's just, to me, like watching it the other day, it was a slog to get through for me. Just because I feel like you said, the pacing is all over the place. Because we go from the first act where the rebellion begins to the beginning, to sort of the beginning and the first act, and the second act where the Battle of Falkirk, which just kind of happens. I know that the rebellion's happening. I just feel as though, and this is the pacing problem, the buildup wasn't right. Because we hadn't spent enough. We spent so much time in one aspect. We didn't get another aspect of the nobles. Because here's the thing. In the history, he wasn't alone. He had like a partner or someone else he worked with. I forget his name. There was another dude he worked with.
Yeah, there was a real best friend that we didn't see in favor of a made-up best friend.
Yeah. So there was a lot of political intrigue that he wasn't some low-born commoner. He knew the circles. He ran the circles. He knew who to talk to. And a lot of those battles were hit-and-run battles, guerrilla warfare tactics. And then
That's how you
Now-
beat the British. That's how we beat the British in the Revolution.
Well-
but yeah, I really wish we would have seen more tactics and more intelligence from
Well-
William Wallace, because the film portrays him as he's traveled the world. He's gotten an immensely detailed education. He knows multiple languages. He studied like he comes across, based on the framing, as he should be a very, very competent military commander and would know how to use guerrilla warfare. In this, yeah, he feints a retreat once, has his cavalry pretend to retreat, and that's it. Like, I expect a lot more intelligence from this character from what was set up.
You bring that up, the Battle of Falkirk, as they presented the movie, that's not how it happened. There was no charge in the spears. It was actually a pitched battle with archers and defensive movements and a lot of moving around, and then reinforcements came. And I mean, basically they forced, if I remember correctly what I read, they forced the English cavalry to separate and chase them down in certain spots. It was no giant battle in the middle of the field where they put up the spears for that's not how it happened. So it looks great, but, and also at that point, because you know how Longshanks talked about, he called in this, he called in that while she was off with the fake, not was it? Yeah. But what he called in all the, no, that's the second one. Anyway, sorry, he wasn't there for that. Battle of Falkirk. I'm sorry, both of them. I'm confused. The numbers are jumping around in my head.
What you're talking about?
The two battles, the Battle of Falkirk and the one after York.
Stirling Bridge,
yeah.
Which had no bridge in the movie.
Yeah, the thing about that is there was no pitch where they lit on fire. That one, oh no, sorry, it was Falkirk. Sorry, yes, I remember now. Falkirk, they lost because the cavalry had to cross bridges at Falkirk, and they basically sparred them. They basically narrowed the battlefield so they couldn't use the cavalry. That's how they won it. Not with spears. And Stirling Bridge, there were like 25,000 English troops there. The movie does a very poor representation of the size of the armies that were in combat. They didn't do a good representation of any of that. So there's a reason they lost at Falkirk. They were massively outnumbered. Not Falkirk, I mean Stirling Bridge. And of course there was betrayal, but I mean the battles looked
not
great.
by Robert the Bruce, though.
No, he wasn't even there. And that's the other problem. You bring it up. Now this movie came out a few years ago called The Outlaw King, which is also not historically accurate either, from what I understand. I saw it. It's a decent movie, not a great movie. Okay. But they cuck the hell out of Robert the Bruce in this movie. They take away his historical significance during this.
Do you know
period.
he's supposed to be the Braveheart? Like, if anyone has historical precedent to be called Braveheart, it's Robert the Bruce, not William Wallace.
And William Wallace was actually seen as an annoyance, even though they didn't knight him and give him Defender of Land. He kind of said, "Yeah, I'm Defender of the Land now. No one knighted me. I'm taking this myself, and I'm gonna march around and do shit." They give Wallace more of a prominence than he had, and they sidelined all the other actors of this period who led eventually to Scottish independence. So it's cool to watch. It's fun to enjoy Mel Gibson's great performance, the battles, this and that, all the emotion. Freedom! I'm gonna give my war speech. We've got our Scottish war paint on. We're ready to go. We're gonna moon them. We're gonna flash them. I mean, we're doing all that crazy shit, but that's not that. These battles weren't battlefield battles. They were sprawling battles. They were isolated parts across a long range, and they happened in specific ways. And granted, you can't get them exactly right, but just I don't want to say just get it right, but I question why did they choose to be so distant from the historical action just to make William Wallace look cool?
It's a weird choice. As we have to keep saying, this movie is written fairly well. The character work and acting, all that is great. But I don't understand that mindset. I mean, it's a similar mindset to modern writers when they're like, hey, instead of using the source material, let's make our own stuff. And unlike them, Mel Gibson actually has talent, so it still works out in the end. But I would like to see a historically accurate version of this story. Now, if they had said this is a mythological version of it, like larger than life, I think that can work. But they
at the time they were pushing this as historically accurate at the time,
mm-hmm.
and once again, just was pointing out, this is a very objective conversation right now that we're having. Because we could talk about favorite scenes. I love it when after the betrayal at Sterling Bridge, the nobles are having their nightmares. He has a nightmare about him attacking him, and he busts through the door on a horse. He drops the ball and chain, and crushes his head. I love that. It's fucking awesome. But it didn't happen. I think it's great. It's romantic that Sophie Marceau falls in love with him at first sight and uses her maid as spies to send him intelligence to let him know that they're going to be at Sterling Bridge, and if they don't fall back, it's all ruins. Yes, it's so romantic, but it didn't happen. She's going to send him more messages so that he doesn't get caught. And as they're rallying their troops again, they do the badass stuff. Oh, here he comes. Oh, we got you. We're going to burn you in the house alive. That's right. Burn him with fire. It's cool. But it didn't happen. And then, why did you help me? I don't know. Oh, let's have sex. So that we can now imply that her son, the baby in her belly, is a Scotsman and not of English royal blood. So we can get that in there.
It's poetry. It rhymes. The English tried to subvert the Scottish people by breeding them out, and he did it to them.
And it's so we could have her walk through the halls, touching her stomach. I'm so happy with the sex I had once with him. I know I have a baby. It's great to watch it, but I just pulled out.
Well, I was looking at some of the historical, trying to find the real history before this stream, and the article that I found comparing the film to the historical record just had this whole spiel. All this, like, all the information was great, and then it got to her and her husband, and it's like, well, yeah, the prince was gay, but this film just comes across as homophobic, and it was this whole spiel about how evil this movie was for its poor portrayal of gay people.
Dude. When Longshanks throws his butt buddy out the window, that's like, yeah, you do that. You throw that guy out the window.
Well, that guy was a dumbass. All right. You're a servant. Yes, you're banging the prince, but this is the king. You don't just say, hey, I'm banging your son, so listen to me. I'm smart. What'd you think was going to happen?
And that's cool. But then to have like Fagel the Prince pull the knife and try to gut him, it's like, what are you doing? That's never going to happen. It's not going to happen. Where do we go from here? I don't know.
I think we've covered the historical accuracy angle, so maybe more about the actual film.
All right, so the film itself, as I said, the pacing may be off, but the film does flow in the pseudo historical manner. The rising threat of Wallace and his rebellion, where Longshanks stupidly leaves his son in charge to manage it, and then it only gets worse when after Falkirk, where suddenly now I have to go back to the problem. I want to know what the size of Wallace's army was when he attacked York. I want to know, because this isn't like the wood-walled forts he'd taken out earlier. This is York. That was a castle. That was a stone wall. They were prepared for a siege. They saw them. They're pouring boiling pitch on those guys. I of course they did take it, but just running the battering ram didn't feel like enough to me.
Yeah, I wanted to see a lot more of that fight.
And they were like three.
They did like 3 pitched battles, and they were starting to feel redundant. I would have trimmed up one of the pitched battles, maybe Sterling, and just really went hard on York. Go all out.
That's the thing. They made York feel like it happened in a night, that they took it in a night. No siege happens in a night. Not unless it's a true fantasy depiction where wild things are happening. And so that's. I mean, there's no orc running to a drainage with a bomb to blow open the wall at Helm's Deep, to open the wall up. That's not happening here.
There's no trolls beating down the gates.
Yeah, there's an actual this is real world. That's a very large stone wall with defenders. It happened so quickly. And but up to that point, the movie gets you there, and the movie sells it. I mean, you believe in what William wants. You're rooting for him hard. You're rooting for him, and in that moment where he's trying to convince the Bruce to, it's like, be the king. We know you could be. I follow you. Even I would follow you. You just had some balls. But then they got to cuck the Bruce and have him bending the knee to his syphilis-infested dad.
It's not syphilis.
I thought that was syphilis.
No, it was leprosy.
Leprosy? I thought he had syphilis.
No.
I always thought it was syphilis, and that's what it was leprosy? It's a bad representation of leprosy. That's
okay. From what I saw, supposedly Robert the Bruce might have had leprosy, but there's no record of his dad having it.
But it was leprosy?
Yeah, that's what I read, at least.
I thought it was... I remember being told when I was a kid it was syphilis.
That might have been someone fucking with you, because I don't think syphilis does that to your face.
I don't know.
I'm not an expert. We can call it derma.
I'm not a doctor. Well, dermaphis is different from syphilis. These are different.
Well, I'm sure he'd know.
It's not a gay disease. Anybody can get it. It's a sex.
He's just a depraved individual, is all I was saying. Thanks.
Anyway, but I mean, we get to the point where you think everything, if you don't know the history, you think, oh, wow, they're coming together. This is it. And Longshanks is on the field. I don't think Longshanks actually went to the field for Sterling. I don't think he was there.
Probably not.
He was. No. Because but you think it's a big battle. And one of my favorite parts is this, though. I forget the name of the Irish guy who's always going, My Island.
Oh, he's great.
He's my favorite character in the movie.
Oh, his scene where the archers first fire in the very first battle, I think it was Falkirk, and the arrows come through their shields and they're ready. And he's like, I might not be here to protect you because you're fucked.
Yeah, I'm okay, but you're fucked. I love it. But there is one thing I know. In Stirling Bridge, when the Irish come over and they shake their hands, I love it when Longshanks goes, Irish. I like that. I just love that. So they join them now.
Yeah, what did he expect to happen? The only people who hate the English as much as the Scottish people are the Irish.
Yeah. So I love that moment, though, when they combine and then they start mooning them and flashing them. And there is one moment I thought this needs to happen way back when, and I always love the moment when the volley of arrows come. There's a dude who gets shot in the ass.
There was.
Arrow in the ass. I'm like, yep. You don't fuck around during the battle like that. Get your shield up. Don't be mooning them when the arrows are flying. You deserve to get shot in the ass. So I love that. That's Mel Gibson good direction. Let's make sure we show somebody getting an arrow in the ass because they were dumb. Do it.
Well, it's psychological warfare.
Yeah. But so I like that. So, but it all works down, and the Battle of Stirling Bridge, where after it's ruined, when he gets betrayed and everything's falling apart, when he unrealistically is chasing after Longshanks' retinue, his party, and the guy tells what we don't know yet is the Bruce to protect the king. And William,
why would they trust a Scotsman to do that?
And why would he do that? Anyway, so that happens. I will say this: that is a heartbreaking scene when he pulls the helmet off and he sees the Bruce. Mel Gibson's the defeat on William's face. That's just great acting right there. It's a great performance, and you feel it. It's like
it's a great fight.
I'm gonna lie down.
Because William Wallace, he even said that all the hope of Scottish independence rests on Robert the Bruce, because no one's gonna follow William all the way to the throne. He can't ever unite the nobles and the common people. William Wallace just is capable of that in the framework of the film, and so he put all his faith in Robert the Bruce. And to see that face come out from under that helmet, the one man standing between William and the enemy, the king, it's just a heartbreaking moment. I think it's framed really well in the context of the film. It's heartbreaking. I do like the character arc of Robert the Bruce because after seeing that look on Mel Gibson's face in that scene, he flips, and you have that great scene where he's walking through the corpses, seeing the Scottish blood running, and it just, the music swells and it's all in his face. And yes, we do have a scene later where he explains what he was feeling, but just that moment of show don't tell. I think Mel Gibson was actually really good at that. For being a directorial debut, this is a fantastic debut.
Yeah.
He's really turned into a great director, and he's the main reason I'm okay with the concept of a Lethal Weapon 5. Anybody else,
don't want it to happen.
I still don't.
They are too old for this shit.
If anyone was going to do it, he's the only person I would trust.
Who could carry on the will of Reitman. He's the only one. But again, that's a different conversation. Real quick, though, over on Stream Elements, Adam's inner monologue for $1.
Uh-oh.
That's why I like large, thick bananas, Sam. I want every inch in my mouth filled. But once my inner monologue betrays me a lot. It has a different personality than the rest of me. I don't understand. It seems to be very gay.
You're just really good at censoring your inner monologue. You have a filter.
Yeah. All right. Well, my inner monologue, try not to be so gay. That's all I ask. Try not to be gay. I'm doing the best I can up front. Whatever you're doing inside.
Just think about the booby scene from Braveheart right now. That'll help. The version I saw censored it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's in shadow mostly. It's mostly side boob, and
it's free on YouTube right now. And we were initially going to watch that one, and when it came to that scene, it zoomed in on their faces, so it was just their heads on the side view. And so we switched it to another one, and it deepened the shadow, so you couldn't actually see it darken the screen.
That's
disappointing.
That's a shame.
They were good boobs.
Boobies, yeah, quality boobs. It's been a long time. I didn't remember if they were quality or not. Yes, they were quality.
Now, do you understand his falling in love with her and willing to do all that?
Dude, she was wearing a smock frock. You couldn't see anything under there. There was no ankle show, no nothing. You had no idea what she looked like in there. Nothing. He got lucky. He did
get lucky.
He got lucky. But. All right, but that defeat is, and then that carries on to. I mean, it's the Bruce in the back half in the third act. He actually is not as cucked as he is in the first one, because
he turns into a good leader.
Because I love it when in the betrayal, which did happen. I mean, Wallace was betrayed and captured, not in that way, but he gets betrayed, and when the Bruce thinks they're about to have a meeting and they're going to unite, but he's betrayed by his lesser noble, who's his man. After he gets beat up a little bit, because like, leave the Bruce alone. He's not part of it. He goes to see his father, and it's a great line. And he says, "Now you're ready to be a king because you understand hate." And he says, "Yes, I do. My hate will die with you." And he's closed doors. Like, damn. Oh, and that's a great parallel to one of the earlier montages in the movie where he's trying to be a good son and he's showing his love to his father who's sick in bed and stuff like that. But then at that point, that's it. His father betrayed everything they believed in for power and wealth. When the Bruce believed William's version, that if you are supporting the people, if you respect the people, if you give them a reason to hope and to be free, they will unite behind you. Doesn't matter how much land you have everywhere. The people will unite you because you are the one giving them what they need. And it's a good little, even though it's minor and it's not a great overall portrayal of Robert the Bruce, it still lands it in the end enough. In the although all right, so let's talk about the execution scene. I guess we have to. Going back in time again, when I'm a kid, I'm watching this for the first time. I have no idea what the history is. And remember, I'm a kid. I play a lot of fantasy video games where heroes sweep in, where party members can jump out and do fantastical things and save the heroes. When I saw Hamish and the Irish dude in the crowd,
you thought they were going to save him.
I said, "Oh man, they're going to save him." as a younger, watches for the
Mhm.
first time. I think, they're going to save him. It's going to be great. And no. And now that's how he was executed. They did the full Monty on him. Now here's the problem, though. When you're young, nobody explain. Now this is great show don't tell, but if nobody explains to you what's happening, I have no idea they're disemboweling him there. I didn't know that as a kid.
Yeah, they could have gone a little bit more graphic with that, just to
maybe not graphic. Just give for those in the audience who do not understand what's going on. It's great show don't tell by Mel Gibson.
Oh yeah, his performance is fantastic. But I think they could have shown an actual shot of the knife pressing down on the skin, not going in, but just enough that where the knife is, where it's going to cut.
Because I don't know this. As a kid, I didn't know that what was going on there. I thought, why is
it could have been castration? Noises? It could have been, for all we knew, from the way that it's framed.
Yeah, because right there, I don't know. I keep thinking they're going to save him. I don't know that that's it. Once that happened, he is done. I didn't know that in the movie in that moment. And that's where that scene fails. Because like you said, you need something to tell the uninitiated what's going on. If you don't know how those ritualistic executions went back then. Because they stretched him, they drawed him, they disemboweled him, and then they decapitated him, and then they quartered him. Because that's the thing. His body parts were cut up and separated. But then
the rest of the scene is very well done. I mean, I love at least the concept of an enemy getting tortured in front of his opponents, and of course they're all ready for the bloodshed at that point, but showing enough bravery and stalwartness in the face of it turned them. The crowd was, asking for mercy too. I really liked that scene. A lot of the cinematography is fantastic. If you see, the torture is often shown from a lower angle and looking up at him like he's this larger than life figure. But after he yells freedom, Mel Gibson yells freedom, they switch it to a higher angle so the executioner seems small, or the guy in charge of the torture seems small. Like little stuff like that is just, that they thought about it. We haven't talked about it a whole lot, but the cinematography is just beautiful, really highlighting the Scottish landscape, doing shots like that of William Wallace. I think it's very well done. We just needed, like you said, a shot of something to know more specifically what was happening to him.
Yep. And while if you're caught up in the movie magic of it, him yelling freedom and Longshanks dying, trying to tell the world that his wife is carrying a bastard and all that stuff, and it's poetic, it's great. But watching it, removing myself from being pulled in by it. Him yelling freedom, I get it's like, come on. It's so over the top. It's great from a subjective point, but objectively,
I love the hell out of it. But it doesn't make sense.
It's over the top objectively, and then you have the final scene, which actually takes place in 1314, 2 years later, and there's no knowing. You think it happens the next goddamn day. And it's a great line where Robert Bruce says, "You bled with Wallace, now bleed with me." But that's not how any of that happened. I come back to it because I just keep thinking that now. There's a reason I haven't watched this movie in over 20 years. Because I watched the hell out of it when I was younger, over and over and over and over and over again. But then you learn their history. It's like, oh, I can't enjoy it as much. Well, when you're a history person like I am, it loses the magic a little bit.
Well, and it's such an interesting period of time. Like Scottish Resistance, I find is very inspiring. And so I would like to have seen how this all played out. And I think the same type of thing applies in The Patriot. I love The Patriot as well. It falls into the same
Braveheart is what we called it back in the day.
It essentially is. I definitely want to pick it after this, though. I love The Patriots.
Oh, it's been a while.
That might be on my list in the near future. Yeah. But I like all of this stuff. I like Mel Gibson. He may not have captured the history of this
There's
time,
passion in
but I think he captured the spirit of this time.
Yeah.
I think he really got the mindset of the Scottish people, really showed them in a positive light, because everyone knows who Scottish people are, but I don't see a whole lot of media about Scotland, about their wars for independence, about who they were during medieval times. We just don't get a whole lot of Scotland in Hollywood. And I think there should be a lot more of it because it's a fascinating country. Not that I'm biased at all.
No,
but
no. I mean, the closest thing you have in recent years is that time travel story where Outlander, yeah, which I dipped out of before the end of season 1.
Oh, everywhere we went, we were asked if we were Outlander fans because, if you were, that's part of the show there.
Yeah,
like it was constantly coming up.
I was sort of enjoying it its first season right up until he got captured and the guy was gonna bugger him. And I was like, you know what? I'm out. I'm not watching an episode. I am watching that, and I'm glad I dipped out because apparently that thing just gets worse and worse.
Really?
It's written for women. It's a chick book thing, you know. And it's not historically accurate. Of course, it's time travel, so it's mucking around with history. Point is, that's the closest thing you have to another era of Scottish rebellion against British rule and stuff like that. So you're right. There's not a lot out there, and like we said, Mel Gibson. It may be historically inaccurate, but the inaccuracy is not done out of disrespect, I don't think.
Oh, absolutely not. And that comes through a lot. I think that's, besides the talent, what separates this from a lot of modern, either historical tales or adaptations of existing work that are done so very differently from their source material. Because, yeah, it has talent and it has respect. I 100% believe that Mel Gibson looked up to William Wallace and thought he was a great man. That comes across. And even Robert the Bruce, with how they muck around with him a little bit, I still feel like the film respects him.
Yeah.
And that goes a long way. That goes a very long way.
Yeah. So the movie is successful and it still holds a place in pop culture history. Listen, it is in the zeitgeist.
Absolutely.
No doubt. It has remained in the zeitgeist for 30 years now.
And I think it deserves to be.
Yeah. It just, you have to put it in its place. It has a lot of fun moments, but as I said earlier, for me now, it's a slog to watch because it moves really slowly at points. And because they are fluffing out the narrative with fake history, it's just pulling away from what I want to enjoy. I want the historical nitty-gritty at this point. I want that, and I'm not getting it. But it's still fun. But it's not fun the way it was when I was younger. That's the difference for me now. You mentioned earlier the score. The score is great. I will take nothing away for it. But to me now, it feels like it's a very repetitive score at this point. There's not a lot of variety.
I can agree with that. I can agree with that.
It's great, but it's soaring at times, but there's nothing. It's the same.
It relies on its main theme a lot.
Yeah. And it's great, but it only elevates the movie at points. It doesn't elevate the whole movie.
And it feels authentic, though. It's not like other examples in recent history where it's a historical epic and suddenly there's modern day rap music in it for no reason.
Or heavy metal guitar.
Or heavy metal guitar in Assassin's Creed Shadows or Hamilton.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're right. So it fits. It's just 30 years later, it's not as epic to me as it was when I was younger. But it still is a good, it's good score, and it does justice. So, anything else you want to throw out there?
No, not a whole lot until we get to our final thoughts. But yeah, this film, it's just so much fun, and that's I think what Mel Gibson really brings to the table is fun. He, even in his more recent acting or directing that he's done, he's still got it. Him and Clint Eastwood, I think, are two of the most underrated working directors right now. We don't talk about their work enough.
Yeah, I can. There's a conversation to be had on that.
They're classical directors, is what I mean.
Yeah,
like they're not juggernauts. They're not ever going to be compared to classic Scorsese or Ford or anything like that. But they feel like they're still making 80s movies.
Well, you look, this entire movie, it's a giant practical movie. There's no CGI in this movie. It's practical effects everywhere, and it's great. It's great. That's. Use the term, it's a dying breed of directing. And also Mel Gibson knows how to get a great performance out of everybody too. then that you could feel it. Nobody mailed it in this movie. Nobody mailed it in. It was great. All right, Jed, it was your week. You get to go first on score.
Well, I think one of the biggest problems with this movie, separating the historical inaccuracy, just talking about the quality of the film itself, is its pacing issues. It makes a lot of fantastic scenes feel dragged out and separated by a lot of stuff that doesn't need to be there. If we got rid of the fluff and just mainly kept the great scenes, because there are so many great scenes, you can have a movie just with the great scenes, it would improve it a lot. So if this movie were 2 hours, 20 minutes or something like that, my score would increase drastically. But the cinematography, the acting, and to a certain extent, the writing, I mean, yeah, it's basic. It is a basic movie. It is not deep. This movie does not bring character development to a new level. It doesn't come across as complicated. It is, hey, dude's wife dies, he goes on revenge war. That's the main plot.
That's essentially it, yes.
And I mean, it's great, but it's simple, and that's never a bad thing in my opinion, as long as it's still done well. But that does still affect the score from what I'd like to score with, so I'd have to give this film a 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10. All right. I'm not far away from you on this. Like you, as I said through this whole discussion today, there's two parts of this movie where I'm looking at it. The objective side, fantastic cinematography, production value, the costumes, the acting, the writing, everything. It screams fun, excitement. The choreography in the battles, mostly good. As you mentioned, the Claymore, a little iffy here and there, mostly good. We like all these characters. We're engaged with all the characters. We want them to be victorious. We want the bad guys to lose. It's fun. It's engaging. But then you get away to the actual story, and objectively, it's just an inaccurate mess all over the place from beginning to end. And it's very rough. If you're like me, and once you know the truth of something, it's very hard to separate it and get the original enjoyment you had. I'm not saying it's not a good watch, but as you said, the pacing is so slow at times. I feel like there's padding. There's at least 20 minutes of padding in every act right now. And if you took away 30 minutes, at least maybe 40 minutes, pared it down like 210, 220, it would be a much tighter movie. And that is because of the fake narratives it created for the story, which work in the movie. But when you think about it outside and compare it to history, it's like you did this to make movie magic. Yes, you did. But for somebody like me, takes it away. And in the end, all these years later, I have to give it a 7 out of 10. I have to give it a 7 out of 10. I will likely not watch this for a very long time again unless somebody makes me watch it. Because one, I saw it so many times. I watched it the other day. Every scene was as I remembered it. No missing pieces. None whatsoever. Maybe a few lines here and there, but exactly how I remembered it. Nothing surprised me. I didn't garner anything new from it. But that's just me. So 7 out of 10. There you go. Another one in the books. And we do have our movie for next week, but it's not our choice. We have a guest next week. The return of Joe Rosie. She bullied us into coming back on, and she got to choose the movie. Now, Jed has never seen this. I have. It was one of those movies that once I watched it, I enjoyed it and watched it over and over again when it was on TV. We'll be watching Alicia Silverstone in Clueless. Clueless, that's right. Something Jed and I would never probably choose on our own.
I don't have a clue what it's about.
I have a feeling it's going to be a rough one for you. I have some nostalgia for it. I would say this. This was the first movie I ever saw Paul Rudd in. The first movie I ever saw Paul Rudd in.
Well, it's funny. Joe actually came to me after you and her had already talked and decided to do this and apologized to me. She's like, maybe it wasn't a great movie. Like she could see that it might be a problem for me too.
And all evidence. 3 weeks ago, Joe said, "I said, so you want to?" We were talking about the show. He said, "I really love to come back on driving." I said, "Oh, you're welcome to come back on." And I said, "You want to come back on soon?" He says, "Yeah." "Can I choose the movie?" "Sure." "I want to do Clueless. Is that okay?" "That's fine." I think Jed's going to be in pain. So we had already kind of put this together separately. And then she told Jed like an hour later that it was going to happen. So anyway, so we'll be having Joe on next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, 6 p.m. Eastern. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Let me check Extreme Elements one more time. Nope, still my inner monologue being gay. Anyway, so thank you very much, guys. And it is also that time of the year again. So start thinking about your fan choice, guys. We're coming back up on that where you guys get to choose. We hope once again you choose good movies and don't make us suffer. It's going to happen eventually, Jed. Eventually, they're going to make us watch a 1992 movie. Eventually, something like that. They're going to do it.
Or he keeps trying to get us to do Flash. What's that one? Flash Gordon that Legatus keeps trying to do.
Oh, Flesh Gordon.
Flesh Gordon.
Yeah, well, that's automatically stricken because there's no porn allowed. anyway, so thank you, everybody. Everybody have a good time this weekend. We'll catch you later while I buy time because they never get us set up. Here we go. Good night, everybody.